a really wonderful practitioner. He just inspired you with his way of living, with his teachings. So that's the source of the text. And he wrote 72, started writing books, and he wrote 9 very authoritative texts that are recognized throughout the world, and very careful translations of verses and scripture. He basically pulled from this encyclopedic knowledge of the Buddhist teachings and encapsulated in these Path to Enlightenment texts. And one of the defining things about the Path to Enlightenment texts are that they've just taken the essential practical teachings of the Buddha, because the Buddha taught for over 30 years. He gave 84,000 different teachings, and way too much material for most of us in our busy lives. So in the Path to Enlightenment tradition, they condensed what do we really need to work with during our lives and to progress. And so it's set up as a sequential series of teachings. So I'll be giving the first 4 weeks, which is the foundation sort of teachings for developing more stable mind, more peaceful mind, and so on. And then Angela will be giving the next 4 weeks on cultivating the sort of the good heart, the bodhicitta, the wisdom, understanding nature of reality, and so on. Some more advanced teachings. So the foundation is regarded as being essential for the latter stages. So, all right, we'll start off with some meditation. With meditation, ideally you sit. The ideal is sitting in lotus posture on a cushion, cross-legged, but on a chair is fine. The main thing, keep your back reasonably straight. And in this tradition, we put our right hand in left hand, resting on our lap, with the thumbs like this. It's called the gesture of concentration. And you know when you've fallen asleep because your thumbs go over before you fall off your chair. And other things, it's called the 7-point posture. It's explained in this book. But other things I try and do is keep your head just very slightly tilted forward, and your eyes either closed or slightly open but unfocused. So whichever one you're more comfortable with. And said you rest your tongue on the upper palate, and it stops the flow of saliva. And the main thing though is to relax. So in meditation, very important, we relax. So that's what we'll do first of all, is just let go of any tension that we might feel in our body, or tension in the mind, any worries. And we can relax by releasing them with the out-breath. So as you breathe out, just feel nice, relaxing, letting go of any worries and any tension. And then we try and establish a good motivation for our meditation, because the motivation determines the outcome. So just meditating to relax for 10 minutes gives that outcome. But if we want something longer lasting, and something more extensive, then we can think through meditating and finding out about my mind and developing my mind. May be a cause of peace and happiness, both for myself and for everyone I encounter. And just stabilize on that slightly bigger picture. And we practice stabilizing meditation, or it's called single-pointed concentration. And the object is just the breath. So this meditation doesn't require any religious or philosophical belief. It just needs your attention and your... So not changing, just breathing in a nice, easy, relaxed way. And then finding the object of concentration. So that's the sensation of your breath, either at the nostrils, as the wind goes in and out of your nostrils, or if you prefer the sensation in your tummy, in your abdomen. So identify clearly the object of concentration, your breath. And once you've identified your meditation object, then stabilize just on that sensation of the breath. And if you like, you can count with a small part of your mind, one in-breath and one out-breath is one. Second in-breath, second out-breath is two. But the main part of your attention, absorb into the sensation of the breath. And then when you get to 10, you can start back at 1 again. And if you find your mind wanders to other things, any thoughts or sounds, for example, thinking, am I meditating? Am I doing this right? And so on. Or what's the point? Whatever the thought is, you just label it you note it and label it as a distraction, and gently bring the mind back to the object. So you don't follow the thought, you don't push it away, you simply note it and come back to your object, the sensation of the breath. As it's important you don't try too hard. You don't try and force your mind to the object, otherwise it won't work. Your mind will become agitated. But also you're not too loose, so not too slack with one's attention. So only you can work out what's correct for you. But it's said to be like tuning a guitar. If the string is too loose, the sound's no good. And if it's too tight, it's no good. So it's important to work out how hard to try. And then just observing the object, not pushing, but just observing your breath. And this is known as the yoga of relaxation, or an internal holiday. Because as the mind relaxes, it stops thinking. And we have a holiday. So every time you become distracted, bring the mind back to the breath. Okay, we can finish the meditation. So it's very, very, very simple meditation, but a very powerful one because if we train in it, then it stops all our normal thought processes and all the things that normally stress us, which happen in the mind. Then it gives us a break from that. So it's a very useful one, and like I say, very simple, doesn't require any belief whatsoever, just you and your breath. And you get in meditation retreats, you start to get a bit of a sense of knowing yourself, knowing your mind at a deeper level than we normally do, because there's so much going on in our minds. Yeah. So there's all these different images and sort of stuff in a Buddhist temple, lots of paraphernalia, and as Buddhists we regard them as holy objects in that they represent some extraordinary quality you're trying to cultivate. So it's not idol worship or image worship, it's a recognition, they're just a representation of something. And presented on this path to enlightenment, there's lots of ideas presented and different philosophical views and different practices, and it's completely presented in the spirit of you can take it or leave it. If you see some sense in it, or if it seems to work for you, then use it. If not, don't. So the Buddha 2,500 years ago, I haven't got the exact verse here, but it was something like monks and scholars should listen to my words as gold is examined with 3 tests. So in ancient India, if someone wanted to sell you some gold, you wouldn't just hand over the money. You'd say, is this actually gold? And they'd submit it. They had 3 tests. They'd rub it. What do? They rub it. They melt it. And God, what was the third one? I'm not very good goldsmith. But anyway, they did 3 things. I think they cut it, they rubbed it, they cut it, and then they burnt it. And then they could tell whether it was gold. And if they determined it was gold, then it was up to them whether they got involved with it. And so the Buddha said exactly the same, particularly with spiritual teachings, religious teachings. He said, don't accept what I'm saying in any way. Don't accept it. Challenge it. Skepticism's good. Use your own wisdom, use your own intelligence, pull it apart, see if there's any logical absurdities, any things that don't add up, contradictions, and so on. And see if you practice these meditations, see if they actually work. And if they don't work, don't worry about them. If there's logical absurdities and you can see this isn't going to be a cause of happiness, cause of peace, then discard it and challenge those ideas. So particularly in Tibetan tradition, they're very, very keen on debating. Tibetan monks would pretty much every night they're out in a debating courtyard debating philosophy and just pulling ideas apart, checking them out, and you have to refute things in a logical way. And so very much the Buddha said, rely on your intelligence. Don't rely on if someone charismatic is teaching or if the ideas presented seem appealing, like, you'll be free of all your problems in 4 weeks, or blah, 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 or if you do this and wear this pair of sneakers on a full moon, then a spaceship will come and take you up to heaven. Whatever weird stuff people get into. So basically apply analysis, apply logic, apply reason, and apply experience before adopting any of the things. So, yeah. So therefore, any time I say anything, you're very welcome to challenge it, to question it, and so on. And we'll have time for Q&A at the end of the sessions as well, and also at tea. So yeah. So I can ask to start off with. Won't be able to cover all of this book, but so it's a bit of a skim through. The section we'll be looking at today is how to meditate. It's the start of the book. It's called How to Meditate. And first of all, I want to ask, why did you come here today? So people come out here for lots of different reasons. You know, you might come because you've heard meditation's good for the health, or you've got a health problem, or might come through. Some people come out through some unhappiness in their life that's happened, some difficulty. Some people come out because they've heard the Dalai Lama and they think he's a pretty cool dude, you know. People come out to get away from the family and have a break on a Sunday. There can be a whole range of reasons why we come to this place. And but underlying it all the reasons the same. And the reason, I'll quote a verse from Panchen Losang Chukyi Gyaltsen. He was in Tibetans, they didn't really use names like Bob or John. This is Panchen Losang Chukyi Gyaltsen, so it's the first Panchen Lama. And he said, no one desires even the slightest suffering, nor is ever content with the happiness they have, as there is no difference between myself and others. Bless me to rejoice in the happiness of others. So that first two lines, nobody desires even the slightest suffering, or is ever content with the happiness they have. All of us want to avoid suffering, and all of us never have enough happiness. We're always looking for more, something more to sustain our happiness. And pretty much all the actions we do in life are driven by that. So, you know, when you get up in the morning, you know, how much longer can I stay in the bed? Because it's nice and warm, so I don't want to, you know, I want to stay nice and feel pleasant. You jump out, you put on certain clothes, you go down, you select a particular breakfast, whether you have muesli or your pecan nut crunch with honey drizzled coconut and soy milk, and you know, you have your cup of tea, and maybe you don't want 1 teaspoon of sugar, you want 3/4, because that optimizes the happiness. And you get your tea bag and you squash it against the side of the cup, because that's going to optimize the happiness. So step by step, every time you stretch, you're trying to get away from suffering or discomfort. Every time you scratch, you know, where you sit, who you spend time with, you know, at home, which is your favorite chair. Just continuously, things we're doing are driven by these basic things. Our pursuit of happiness, our trying to avoid discomfort. And so it's not just the small things in life, the big things too, like whether you buy the single choc or the double choc Tim Tams, for example, or whether you get married, whether you get divorced, you know, whether you like being single or in a relationship, or what you study, what sort of work you do, what you do with your life, all been driven by this. And even things we don't really enjoy doing, unpleasant things, then we still do. Like, no one really wants to go and get a needle in the arm, but we do it because it will reduce future suffering. Or no one wants to, with regards to a vaccine, for example, or no one wants to go to the dentist. But we do it because on the balance it'll reduce future suffering. You know, you might not want to go and visit the in-laws at Christmas, but you do it to avoid future conflict. So there's continual trade-offs, but what's underlying it all is our pursuit of happiness. And humans are very intelligent. We're super smart. We've had agricultural revolution, the scientific revolution, industrial revolution, digital revolution. You know, we've invented, now they've made machines, AI machines, robots, that can actually generate offspring that are smarter themselves, and they 3D print them. And 2 or 3 countries have already done this. They're thinking, well, we better send this sort of thing to another planet and it'll reproduce and make intelligent life on other planets and so on. So, you know, you can pick up, you're super smart, you can go anywhere and talk to anyone in the world and access the world's information. So it's an incredible thing that humans have this immense intelligence. And we've worked out the causes of doing all these things. So therefore, we want happiness, and we want to be free of suffering. And you'd think we would have worked out the causes for that. But if you look at your own life, and you look at the lives of people you know, or just look at the faces on the street, then you can see in reality, we're bound, we experience a huge amount of discomfort, huge amount of suffering. So the Buddha called that the truth of suffering, or true suffering. And he said it's important for us to understand it, because then we're motivated to change. And so he broke that down. In Path to Enlightenment, it explains there's 8 types of suffering, there's 6 types, there's 3 types. And I won't go into them all because you'll be too depressed by the end of it. You didn't come out here to get depressed. But it's good to understand, for example, when we're born, birth. Birth is a challenge. You're 9 months in the womb, you've got no window, you've got no door, you've got no smartphone, you've got no entertainment. There's just boom, 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 you know, it gets a bit monotonous. And then when you do come out, you're exerted, you've been used to this nice fluid environment, 37 degrees, and nice and protected. Suddenly you're forced through the birth canal, tremendous pressure, and then someone's grabbing your head, and then in the old days they hang you up, welcome to the world, give you a whack on the back to make you cry. So the birth experience is and the womb experience is can be challenging. But if you go into a hospital, I work in a hospital, and you see the newborns, they look like they've been through a hell of an experience generally. It's a big thing. So then we all experience sickness. So in life, nobody wants to be sick. Nobody wants a cold. Nobody wants the flu. Nobody wants COVID. Nobody wants diabetes. Nobody wants cancer. Nobody wants chest pain, and so on and so on. But we all experience sickness. And when we're sick, we're not interested in the things that if we're really sick, we're not slightest bit interested in almond croissants or going to a bar or a cafe, or we just, the things that normally give us pleasure don't give us pleasure at that time. Then with old age, there's a lot of suffering can be experienced with old age. Gradually, as the body, all our faculties and capacity, they gradually reduce. The speed of our movement, the ease of our movement, our eyesight, our ears, and so on and so on. And eventually the sharpness of our mind will, generally speaking, deteriorates. So when we're old, we're jogging along, swinging the arms up and down, and then someone goes walking past you, or you're swimming flat out in the pool, and then sort of a 12-year-old shoots past like a fish. So it's, yeah. And if you've ever, like, if you've ever been on a dementia ward, then that really is an experience of suffering you see there, Even in the hospital, you hear people crying out, and they're crying for help, and then the nurse goes in to help them, and the nurse gets shouted at, and then goes out the door, and then they're crying for help, and why are you neglecting me? And then you go back in, and you get shouted at. It's so it's that confused state is very difficult. And then death is something that we all experience, and it's a separation from everything we're familiar with, everything we rely on for our, not in our day-to-day, for our well-being. We're separated from everything. So normally you think, if I'm separated from my house, that's going to be bad. Or I'm separated from my family, or I'm separated from my money, or from my favourite slippers, or whatever. But at the time of death, we're separated from all of those things. So for many people, it's a worrying time. And yeah. Then there's sufferings of meeting unpleasant circumstances. It's called suffering of meeting the unpleasant. So when you jump out of bed and stagger into the bathroom and look in the mirror, that's a big shock first thing in the morning for most of us. When we're young, the mirror is our great friend. We just love to capture a reflection as we walk past a shop of our image, sort of, as a teenager, you might be very obsessed with your image. But then as gradually as you get older, the mirror becomes less and less of a friend. I got a shock when I walked into and saw there was a double mirror, and then suddenly didn't realize I'd lost all my hair. But then you see the back of your head as well. So yeah, that's the challenge. Or meeting the unpleasant, like here if you're in the shower and someone else turns on the hot water, suddenly it goes cold. You get that shock of cold. Or meeting unpleasant criticism from people, meeting the unpleasant, you get sacked from work, car accidents, natural disasters, bushfires, they're all unpleasant experiences. We all meet the unpleasant. Then being separated from the pleasant, the Buddha said, this is another thing we have throughout our life, another cause of suffering. We might enjoy our job and then we get retrenched, or we absolutely love someone, maybe a member of our family or not, and they move away or they pass on, they die, and that's a separation from what we find pleasant, and so on. So then not achieving our wishes. So that's quite a common one. You aspire to get certain exam results, you aspire for a certain job, you don't get it, you want this car, the neighbour's got a BMW, but I really want that, but I can't get that wish. Or you aspire for a relationship, but the other person's not interested, or so on. Or then you do get the thing, and it becomes boring. The relationship you really wish for, apparently the average lifespan of a marriage in Australia is 12 years. So it's not very long now. So the person you were dying to live with, suddenly 12 years later you're dying to get away from. That's achieving your wishes and then getting frustrated. Or the smartphone, you were dying to get this model of iPhone, and then 5 years later it looks like a bit of old junk compared to these nice big screens people have got, or foldable phones, and so on with everything. Nothing has, the Buddha said, that's one of our sufferings, is nothing has the ability to sustain us in this peace or happiness or thing. And there are lots of mental difficulties, like lots of people are lonely, lots of people are depressed, lots of people are dissatisfied and feeling a bit empty, or things are a bit meaningless, and so on. So, yeah, we all have different mental sufferings. So that's the that's the, and there's uncertainty. We're never quite certain of the relationship's going to last forever, the job's going to last forever. We're not certain the weather's going to hold up, with global warming. Not certain the economy. So there's uncertainty about our lives. It's a sort of fundamental thing about our lives. There's always an uncertainty there, and that can cause suffering. So, all right. So that's a very brief look at what's called the truth of suffering, or true suffering. So we can ask, well, what do you do to cheer yourself up? How do you seek happiness if you're feeling down in the dumps? Does anyone want to say what they do if they're feeling a bit down? Or I can just read from. So basically, when I ask people, we do the same thing as all of us. You try and get lots of salt, fat, and sugar into the bloodstream. So you rush down for the fast food, or you go and buy a family-sized bar of chocolate and a packet of chips, or go to the movies and get stimulated with the images, or watch movies. Go to the movies and buy a sort of dustbin full size of popcorn and 3 gallons of Coke and slosh that down, or go on a holiday, or go out for a nice meal, listen to some music, talk to some friends, and so on. Go shopping therapy, go and buy a new couch or a new whatever, some clothes, all to try and get some happiness. But the interesting thing about all those things I mentioned, they're all external activities, all of them. And if you ask yourself, where does happiness live? And where does your suffering, where does your unhappiness actually live? Yeah, it lives right there. It lives right there. So we often don't recognize that. And we can see, logically you can see that, because on the same day, on different days, you might be in the same situation. You come down for breakfast, same person's there opposite you, you're eating the same cornflakes, you're drinking the same coffee, you're listening to the same radio. One day you come back down, you're cheerful, you're happy. And the next day you're snarling at that person. They're making so much slurping noises when they're eating, or they're folding their newspaper so noisily, the radio's on the wrong station, everything they say is irritating. So the external situation's the same, but the mind has transformed it into either a cause of happiness, cause of suffering. Or we can see ourselves and another person in the same situation. So, for example, someone who's very patient, like my teacher, Geshe Loden, if he was here and you were shouting insults at me and shouting insults at Geshe, then there'd be a very different reaction. Because I'd be getting upset, and you're saying, shut up, you bag of wind, and stop crapping on, and so on and so on. And for someone who's developed their patience and their wisdom, it's nothing. But for me, I'd be going, that's nice. why do they say that? How dare they say that? And thinking about it, thinking about it at night time, can't sleep, thinking about it through the week, blah, 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 blah. And too much thinking, regurgitating over and over and again. So my mind engaging that sound generates misery, whereas a more patient person, a more developed person, then absolutely no problem. And another way we can see that the mind is the key to our happiness and suffering that we're all seeking is if you see someone who seems to have everything, and yet they might live in a Hollywood mansion, they've got all this fame, they've got young beautiful people around, best food, and they're taking drugs and they're getting suicidal. You can name so many celebrities, wealthy superstars, and they're leading miserable lives. The family life might be full of conflict and so on. Whereas sometimes you encounter people with very little, but they've just a contentment about them, and good family relationships, Like when I went to Tibet, you meet these Tibetans got nothing, but really just laughing and happy, and really rock solid relationships, looking after each other, and so on. So those are some of the ways you can see that the mind is. I'll just see what time. Oh dear, I'm going way too long. Sorry. Okay. So the bad news about that is we can't blame others. At the root of our experience is our mind. We can't blame others for our upsets, and normally we do. Always. Someone's done that annoying thing, someone's said this to me, someone's taken this from me, someone's prevented me getting this. We blame others for our misery. My mother should have done this for me, should have treated me better, blah, blah, blah. The government should have done this. My boss is overbearing. So we're seeing others as the cause of our problems. And with this, recognizing the key factor is one's own mind, then we have to start taking responsibility for our own experiences. And we can say, well, I react that way, but other person might not. But the good news about it is you then gain control, not only over your mind, but over your life experiences. And you gain control because there's methods for modifying the mind. So when I talk about mind, in Buddhism, we're not talking about the brain. We're talking about something non-physical, completely non-physical. It's awareness, experience, knowing, the knowing aspect of your life, your mind. And so the mind is, you might think, well, my life is my family, my job, where I was born, what I do, that's my life. But all of those things are known through your mind. So they're all perceived through your mind, they're all reacted to through your mind. So the mind is really generating your life. So what is this mind? It's not brain. It's the Buddha taught we have a mind stream. There's one moment of consciousness, leads to the next moment, leads to the next, leads to the next, leads to the next, and is caused by lots of things. Like it was caused by the brain's a cause, the eyes are a cause, the environment's a cause, but the main cause is the previous moment of awareness. This incredible thing called awareness or knowing. That's the mind. We have this stream of stuff going through continuously. And some of the stuff that goes through our mind is beneficial. And some of it causes us problems. And none of that comes with labels. So in meditation, the Buddha taught the cause of suffering, the main cause of suffering, is what's called negative states of mind or delusions. The main cause of happiness is virtuous or beneficial states, positive states of mind. And they all happen within here or here. So what the definition of a negative state of mind is called a delusion, afflictions or destructive emotions, and so on. The thing that defines them is they cause the mind to become unpeaceful or agitated or unhappy. So Shantideva said, he was a great 8th century meditator and practitioner. He said, though wishing to be free of suffering, they run towards suffering itself. Though wishing for happiness, like an enemy, they ignorantly destroy it. And he was talking about our negative states of mind. So if you look back at your own life, how many times have I worried in my life? How many times have I been upset, irritable, grumpy? How many times have I had sort of projections or imagination about others? You know, they're talking about me, they're laughing about me, the neighbour did this to have a go at me, sort of slightly, or they said that or that I didn't like the tone and so on. How many times are we upset? How many times have you felt lonely or depressed or bored, dissatisfied? You know? How many times are we grasping after something? I can't be happy, peaceful in this situation unless it changes. I need to fix this. I need to get that before I can experience peace. That's our whole life. Our whole life we've been saying to ourselves, I can't be happy or peaceful unless the situation is other than how it is. I need to do this thing to become happy. I need to do this thing. It just gnaws away at you, and you chase for the next thing, you work for the next thing, you try and, you try and buy that or save up to get this because then I'll be happy. You try and fix that, you try and get that relationship, then things will be all right. After that, things will be all right. Never get there. Spend a whole life in pursuit of this. This must change before I can be at peace. So that's what negative states of mind are. And as Shantideva said, we're running towards suffering. So we're all joggers. Have you noticed you don't often see a happy-looking jogger? Everyone's, someone said that. And I think generally, unless they're super, super fit, everyone looks like they're having quite a hard time. But we're all jogging towards suffering with these negative states of mind. And the thing about them is none of them come with flags. None of them, when I'm angry, it doesn't come with a flag saying you're making yourself miserable, you're causing harm to your body, you're causing harm to that person when you're shouting at them. It doesn't come with a flag, it just comes with a perception, a very convincing appearance. You did that to me, I'm going to shout at you, or I'm going to hit you, or I'm going to do something to upset you. It's a very convincing narrative appears to mind. It doesn't appear as this is anger. Anger causes cardiotoxic adrenaline and cortisol to go around my body. Anger causes me to feel really tight and claustrophobic, causes me to lash out, causes me to destroy my relationships. In some cases, people kill even their own children through anger. You see it in the papers all the time. So none of that comes with an identifier in the mind saying, this is no good for you. So a big part of the path of meditation is identifying those habits or aspects in our own mind that are actually causing us suffering and causing suffering to people in our relationships and to others. So yeah, that's negative states of mind. And they're very habituated, and you see them all the time. You read them in the paper, you know, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard shouting at each other, people committing suicide, people getting onto drugs, people getting on with gambling problems, becoming alcoholic, becoming abusive, people becoming depressed, and so on and so on. All just our way of running towards suffering through habit, through not having the wisdom to know our own minds and to change the direction of our own minds. So the alternate to that is what's called positive states of mind. And we all have these. There's a whole range of positive states or virtuous states, meritorious minds. And they're our best friend. They're absolutely our most reliable thing we have in our lives, because we take them with us wherever we go. And they make the best, they make the most out of any situation. So things like just being calm and peaceful, calm, non-agitated mind. Things like being respectful, able to listen to others, able to connect to others, kindness, compassion, patience. So having the patience when something difficult happens, that we don't fly off the handle. We don't just have to retaliate, but we can deal with the situation in the most skillful way at that time. And our wisdom, so our insight and understanding, particularly about the mind, so our insight into the mind and our understanding of what the potential is. According to the Buddha, the potential of your own mind, this awareness, this knowing, is unlimited. It's enlightenment is our own potential, and peace and happiness naturally follow through developing some of these enlightened qualities. So that is our it's actually a natural state. It said once we've cleared the mind of turmoil, then happiness naturally arises. It's the natural state of like when we did that meditation on the breath. If you have very good concentration, free of any agitation, it's naturally a joyful thing. Just a very simple meditation on the breath. The mind, it's this clarity and knowing of the mind, free of sort of neurosis and destructive thoughts and agitation, is a joyful state. And it's a natural state. So it's not some weird religious thing we're trying to accomplish. It's to come back to know ourselves at our deepest level. That's what the path to enlightenment is. So we can see in our own mind, in our own lives, the benefit of virtuous minds. You look at the time in your life when you genuinely did have moments of genuine caring, heartfelt caring for someone else, like love, loving kindness, or compassion. Then how good does that feel? How good was it for the other person? And they're sort of the best moments in our life. Lots of people, when they get to the end of their life, they look back, and it's those moments of kindness that are absolutely the best part of their life. Not all are grasping and fighting and competition and ego and pride and jealousy and so on. Okay, so like I said, the mind stream is just full of stuff. It's non-stop. All these images, appearances come in our lives, and all our reactions to those images. And none of it identifies itself as being good or bad, useful or problematic. So the thing about meditation, that's one of the first things we try and do, is identify what's going on in our own minds, like calming down, settling down, relaxing, and giving ourselves some space to observe our own mind. So I read about meditation, and this meditation is the path to enlightenment. It says, meditation is defined as thoroughly and deeply acquainting the mind with objects of virtue. Because virtuous minds are by nature happy and the source of future happiness, each time that you engage in meditation, further happiness is brought into your life. So that thoroughly and deeply acquainting the mind is the challenging thing, because when we try to meditate, the mind scoots off onto something else, and so we don't get to stabilize on the object. So in meditation, we're trying to build a realization. You're not just going back to the same thing again and again. We're trying to deepen our awareness, deepen our understanding of it, so it actually changes us, who we are, and how we respond. And there's three main types of meditation. Like there's thousands of meditations, and they fall into three main categories. So one is, and they use different faculties of your mind. So stabilizing or concentration meditation uses this faculty of clarity and stability that your mind has. So if you stabilize on the breath and you develop clarity, you clearly observe the object, and your mind's very stable, it's not jumping off the then that's stabilizing meditation. And there's another type called analytical meditation, which uses your intelligence or your power of reason to look at something and develop a new understanding. And then you use your stabilizing meditation to focus on that new understanding. So for example, I might have been angry all my life, I get upset, someone tells me what to do, I immediately get upset. But with analytical meditation, you then analyze the disadvantages of anger and the alternatives and the methods for developing those. And so you can get to see, I'm no longer going to have road rage. I'm no longer going to find myself jumping up and down on someone's bonnet because they cut in front of me. And through analysis, through understanding. Or you might do a meditation on love and recognize, just as I wish and need happiness, everyone, those closest to me, they've got the same strength of wish as me. And you analyze to see that, and then you stabilize on it to deepen your compassion or your love. So analysis is very useful in meditation. Then the third type is using your ability to imagine, the faculty of imagination. And in that type of meditation, we visualize things happening. And you're seeing things happen with the mind's eye. Like you might do a purification meditation where you visualize white light coming in, filling your mind, filling your body, washing out negativity and unhappiness and sickness. And through seeing it in your mind's eye, it's like it becomes part of you. So you can sort of clean out, all your worries, or clean out any causes of sickness through the power of the mind. And the mind's very powerful. Ask any doctor about the placebo effect. If you think you've had a tablet, then it's a very powerful thing. you think you've had an active drug. The placebo effect's the mind's very powerful. Look what your mind does to your body when you're in a situation where you're threatened. You're in a pub and all the bikers come in, then your body's super alert, it's poised, ready to fight or flight. That's the mind doing that. It's perceived a threat and so on. So mind's very powerful. And with visualization, they say a picture tells 1,000 words, so you get a lot of information. And you can visualize, there's lots and lots of visualization meditations using different lights and different holy objects. You imagine, getting blessings and so on. Okay, so the path to enlightenment is a path of meditation, and it's said to be like the master key. It unlocks the doors to any problems we have, and it unlocks the doors to fully developing the best qualities we have within. And it does so through us acquainting our minds with the teachings, either through listening or reading, and then thinking about them and pulling them apart, like I said, to see if they make sense. And then, if they do, then meditating on them and thoroughly and deeply acquainting the mind with them. So that's sort of the pathway by which it's a very practical thing. It's not as quick as going to McDonald's and buying the 6 shake and getting the fat and sugar and salt into the bloodstream, but it's a much longer term beneficial pathway towards peace and well-being. So benefits of meditation. I think I'm talking much too long. Yeah, I am. Okay. So there's lots and lots of benefits to meditation. Because we take our mind is the prism by which we engage life. Anything you do to benefit your mind, you benefit your life. And the mind and body have a very strong relationship, like I just mentioned. So it's very useful for the body to calm the mind down, stabilize, and so on and so on. There's lots of benefits in terms of resilience, like there's methods to deal with any hardship. If someone you love dies, if you lose your job, if the doctor tells you you've got liver cancer, then there's a set of teachings called transforming adversity into the path, by which instead of being crushed by that experience or becoming alcoholic because of that or depressed, you transform it into a means to develop your wisdom, develop your compassion and so on. So it's specific for both the good and bad in life. There's methods. And there's lots of science now backing the benefits. Even in Stanford they do a 9-week compassion training course in meditation. And people come out and they get long-term benefits just from doing a 9-week course, in terms of their well-being, how they feel about themselves, their relationships with others and so on. So, yeah. Okay, so I said we'll do 2 meditations, so I better shut up and not worry about the rest of that talk. Too much blah, blah, blah. So we'll do another very brief meditation. So again, just settling in meditation posture. And resting the mind on the breath. The breath is always a good starting point for meditation because it reduces our agitation, stabilizes the mind. So just focus on your breath for a few breaths. We do a brief meditation on loving kindness. First of all, developing loving kindness for oneself. Just thinking, I always wish for happiness and want more peace in my life. And simply think how good it would be to attain enduring happiness. May I attain happiness and all the causes of happiness, and stabilize on that wish for your own well-being. Just try and imagine a state of ongoing happiness is possible. And extending out to your friends and family. Recognizing each of them as that same strength of wish. They want happiness and good conditions. They need happiness. They need well-being. So from your heart, just thinking, may all my friends and family attain all happiness and all its causes. And stabilize on that thought. And extending even further to people we don't like, people we disagree with, or feel have harmed us. And think, may all these people, they too wish for happiness, yet experience so much suffering in life. Think, may they gain happiness and all its causes. And extending out even further, opening our hearts to all strangers, people we don't know, but each one having that same wish, the same need for peace, for happiness and well-being and good conditions. So thinking, may all the limitless strangers attain all happiness and all its causes. And extending out to all human beings, the entire human family, with a vast range of different cultures and beliefs and practices, but everyone needing happiness more and more. So from your heart, thinking, may all of humanity achieve all good conditions and peace and happiness. And then extending out to all living beings, humans, animals, all living beings. The extraordinary mind of great love. May all living beings without exception achieve peace, happiness and well-being, good conditions and all its causes. And stabilize single-pointedly on that extraordinary wish. And then we can express positive energy of our meditations today towards the well-being, the peace, happiness and well-being, and eventual enlightenment of oneself and all living beings without exception. So, is there any questions on the on the talk today? Any? You're allowed to say it's all nonsense, or challenge parts of it, or yeah. Or you're also cold. It's a bit cold in here, isn't it? Is it a bit cold? Everyone's nodding. Okay, we'll try and get the heating on for next week. Sorry about that. But yeah. It's what? Oh, has it? Really? But from that talk, you can see that the main cause of the suffering is from within. We all agreed that. Geshe came from Tibet, and he used to keep it really cold in here. And Tibetan tradition is like Tibetan mothers chase their kids away from the fire, otherwise they won't be able to survive outside. They'll get too soft. So he used to always say, you think you're cold, but think about the white bear, the polar bear in Alaska jumping into the icy ocean, and then it's not so bad. So that was, but anyway, dress warmly, and we'll see if we can get the heating going for next week. Yeah, it's a bit challenging with the windows open and everything, but yeah. Okay, so hopefully that gives some idea about what the purpose of it is, and a little bit about the different meditation methods. We'll go into that through the course, the different types of meditation, and what they're meant to do, and what they're good for. So, all right, there's tea and coffee out the back now, if anyone would like. So, thank you.
On the shop open for half an hour, and I've got a little kid to say.